Okay, so what I was saying is we don't want this neck cluster to move, because if it moves, then it looks fine like this, but what if there was the other parts of the body, like if she had the entire rest of her body, then that would be bad, right? Because then her neck could be doing something really funky. And we don't want that. So all we have to do is we'll just hide that one, so they can't select it. And these other two, we could just leave those like that if we wanted to, or maybe later on we'll come up with some fancy control system to be able to select those and move them around. Okay. So that's that. Now we need to create clusters. I'm going to go ahead and hide these temporarily. I'm going to group these clusters together. I'm going to grab this head wires, group those together, and I'll grab both these groups and group those together just to stay organized. Okay. So this, we want to hide all of these in the wire group. We don't want to be able to view those. So Control H those. And then, so all we can see now are these two clusters. Okay, and I would want to rename these groups, obviously. So next, what we want to do is create a cluster for the eyes, and for the mouth, and so that they can be shifted around on the face and scaled up or scaled down or whatever needs to happen, so that the character can be posed to the camera. That's the most important part of that. So what I like to do is go to vertex mode. Actually, I'm just going to, what I was going to say is I'd like to create a selection to get this started. And then I'll grow that selection. So I'm going to change this to vertices, and then I'll try to avoid doing that. Go to vertex mode, and I'll grow this selection. Okay, and this is about all it should ever control, plus some. That's the main thing. And I'm going to select these right here as well. And I'm going to cluster all of these. And then I'll have to paint weights on them. Okay, so go to Create Deformer, Cluster. There's the cluster. And then for the face, let me go ahead and rename this, I guess, to Mouth Cluster. Mouth underscore cluster. Then I'll right click on this and we'll go to Paint. We're going to go to Cluster and Mouth Cluster. Okay, so there's all the CVs. They're being controlled 100% by that cluster. Well, we need to change that. We need to paint the fall off for that. And this is just like weight painting, except it's not normalized, meaning its values can exceed 100%, and they can go below 0. It can actually go negative. So you will have to monitor that on your own. I'm not saying it's a good idea to do that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so you want to go through and edit this. And the goal of this is to make it so that the mouth can move around, but you want to obey like the laugh lines and stuff like that. So as it rotates around into the cheek, you should see that, you know, a normal shape come out of it. So, you know, what might be helpful is if you had a mirror on hand and you look, while you're looking into it, you like shifted your mouth to one side or the other. Kind of like when you purse your lips and try to move your mouth to one side. That's the goal of this cluster. Okay, and so I'm not going to make you watch me paint this, but I will show you the results in a later video. Okay, so now we need to do the same thing, but we need to do it for the eye. So I'm going to go to Edge Mode. I'm going to change this to Vertices. Grow that selection to kind of encompass the eye. Whose computer is that? Yours? I keep thinking it's my recording or something. Like, what's going on? Okay, anyway, so I'm grabbing adjusting my selection. Maybe. Why isn't it doing this? Okay. Change my brush size, and I'm going to adjust my selection here. Okay. I'm going to press down Control while I've got my paint select on, and I'm going to change the selection. And I want to grab a generous area around the eye, because you can always control how much is actually going to be controlled by painting the cluster weights. Okay, so that ought to be good. Need to add that vertex in. You also want to choose a region that's easy for you to recognize so that you can mirror it, because you'll need to do the exact same thing on the other side of the face. Okay. And in fact, it might be helpful to go ahead and create a selection set to enable that to happen. But so I've got my selection made, and now I'm going to create a cluster. And I can go through and look at that, and eventually I would want to paint that so that it affects the region of the eye. And this one I will show you at a later point after it's weighted. I won't make you watch me do the weight painting on it either. But basically, we need to be able to grow and shrink the eyeball and its socket, but it should fall off so that it looks fairly normal. Anyhow, okay, so there's that. I'm going to replace this with 0 real quick. So looks like I missed a vertex that I didn't want included. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing for this other side. And that's how to do all those clusters and that wire deformer. And then we need to place those in the deformation, the input order, so that they can work along with our joints. Okay, and we'll do that in a later video after I've got the weighting done and stuff like that. Okay?